Could Aiden Pearce, the vigilante from Watch Dogs, be a more realistic Batman than Bruce Wayne? Let's find out. Realism in superhero narratives is often limited to emotions and how people would react to something extreme happening in their everyday normal routine. There are a few exceptions to this paradigm, and they are often referred to as vigilantes, like the excellent Kick-Ass or Mask of Zorro series, or even the old tale of Robin Hood, just to name a few examples, where a normal person who does not have superpowers at all tries to enact some sense of self-proclaimed justice against perceived wrongdoers, like criminals or people in power, by punishing these people most likely in a very violent manner, therefore serving as a warning to future criminals to reconsider their evil ways. This dynamic is extremely popular because normal everyday people who are often just trying to fit into society feel represented through these narratives. These narratives that can often depict these vigilantes as lone warriors, taking on a corrupt system that doesn't care about the everyday person and their suffering, essentially establishing them as a symbol of the people, a symbol of justice. I would argue that none represent that narrative as well as Batman, the alter ego of billionaire Bruce Wayne, who became a victim of injustice when his parents were murdered in front of him as a child and the perpetrator was never found. In a way, that explains Batman's extreme thirst for justice and stopping crime before it's committed, because in his mind there is another version of him waiting in an alley with his parents that can be saved from the grief of loss by him becoming a force of nature that stops evil from running wild in Gotham City. In a similar way, in my opinion, there is someone I think is exactly what Batman would be if he was more realistic and had less money, with similar motives to enforce justice where need be, and the tools that would be available to the ordinary civilian with the right connections. Aiden Pearce is the perfect representation of Batman in a realistic modern setting. Now, if a traditional superhero just happened to show up in today's society, their sense of justice would quickly be tested, with just the scope of crimes being committed in the world alone being crippling to think about, let alone the complexities of human emotions and scenarios that are not as obvious when you really investigate the story further. Maybe someone is not as innocent as they appear to be, with them presenting a perfect life on the outside, but being extremely evil behind closed doors. Or perhaps someone is accused of doing something extremely horrible, like unaliving someone, and all the evidence points towards the person being guilty. However, further investigation reveals the person was framed by someone who actually did commit said crime. And the disconnect between being someone so capable yet feeling like you are not doing enough can lead to traditional superheroes facing some serious mental turmoil. And don't get me wrong, there are some genuinely kind people, but I still think they would eventually become cynical after a few decades of trying to save everybody. Aiden Pearce is a brooding individual, just like Batman, that is motivated to take out the network that murdered his niece, Lena, and admittedly is primarily motivated by vengeance. And while some may think he's more like the Punisher than Batman, he still has some humanity left. Maybe just enough to protect his sister Nicole and his nephew Jackson. Because while it is a big source of strength for Aiden Pearce, it is also his biggest weakness that gets exploited by his enemies. And Punisher does not have that weakness. At least he doesn't from the limited media I have consumed of him. Because the Punisher's whole family gets murdered, and so it doesn't have any mercy left for criminals.
People don't have to die.
Red, you believe that?
I believe it's not my call, and it ain't yours either.
Somebody asked you to put on that costume, or you take it upon yourself? You know what I think you, hero? I think you're a half measure. I think you're a man who can't finish the job. I think that you're a coward. You know the one thing that you just can't see? You know you're one bad day away from being me.
And he wants to kill as many criminals as possible, despite the nuances that might be effective for some of these criminals, like money or extortion. The Punisher has a single-minded focus of ending all crime by any means, and no one can convince him otherwise. But Batman has companions as well, in the form of Alfred, a father figure of some sorts, and a family butler to Bruce Wayne, as well as his adoption of Robin as his sidekick, whether it's Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, or Damian Wayne. These relationships serves as an anchor for Batman's humanity, in some ways allowing him to keep some sense of morality while dealing with the criminals in Gotham. And Batman, while being extremely violent against criminals, prefers rehabilitation to killing, showing incredible restraint towards his adversaries by choosing to have them imprisoned after he defeats them. Batman also has a no-kill rule, most likely stemming from his parents' murder and him refusing to be anything like the person who took them from him. Aiden Pearce has none of this and is not afraid to kill if necessary. In fact, he is extremely proficient at using a pistol, but he also understands the mindset of the criminal because he was one himself and he had to deal with really bad people sometimes just to make sure he can survive. So he understands that there are hesitant criminals that would choose any other path if they had the option to do so. He also understands that some criminals are truly irredeemable and he will not hesitate to put them down. One key moment in Watch Dogs is where Aiden finally discovers that Lucky Quinn, the king of the Chicago underworld, who is involved in all sorts of illicit activities, including drug trafficking, human trafficking, and murder, just to name a few, is the one who sent mercenaries after him, which ended up being the reason his niece died. Turns out the cash heist he was committing was mistaken for a data breach to obtain crucial evidence that Lucky Quinn had to blackmail the mayor of Chicago into doing his will. And knowing this, Aiden decides to end the reign of Lucky Quinn, not by taking in the evidence to the authorities, but by disabling his pacemaker, effectively taking away his only means of survival, ensuring that Lucky Quinn can never hurt anyone ever again, and exposing the crimes he and the mayor has committed.
You don't even know why we attacked you. It was a mistake. We thought you wanted this. You were just sloppy. If you'd walked away, I would have forgotten you. What a lovely woman, Rose Washington. Wasn't for her death, where would I be? Most women die without purpose. But she had enough sense to die in front of the camera. See, and our mayor never tidy with his secrets. And stupid enough to fall in love.
All of this. Lena's death. Because you didn't want to lose a puppet.
Do you think you've won? See, when I die, they'll build a statue. And you? The city didn't stop for your grieving family. Because you don't matter.
I know I have proof.
Haven't you heard? I'm the vigilante. I clean up mess like you.
Batman would not have ended Lucky Quinn's life. He would have restrained him and exposed him. But Lucky Quinn would most likely find a way out of the judiciary system and be back in the streets in no time. A clear example of this is the story of the Red Hood, where Jason Todd, also known as Robin, is captured and tortured by the Joker. Jason Todd is later killed by the Joker, and Batman finds Jason's body and is stricken with grief and guilt of not being able to save him in time. The Joker also makes it very clear that this is his doing. So when the Batman finds the Joker and doesn't kill him, it is his surprise to Jason Todd, who returns from death using the power of the Lazarus Pit under the moniker of the Red Hood. He questions Batman's decision to keep the Joker alive, even after he clearly demonstrates no remorse and an unwillingness to be rehabilitated. And this is the core difference between Aiden Pearce and Batman.
Ignoring what he's done in the past, blindly, stupidly disregarding the entire graveyards he's filled, the thousands who have suffered, the friends he's crippled. You know, I thought I'd be the last person you'd ever let him hurt. If it had been you that he'd beat to a bloody pulp, if he had taken you from this world, I would have done nothing but search the planet for this pathetic pile of evil death-worshipping garbage.
No! God almighty, no. It'd be too damned easy. All I've ever wanted to do is kill him. A day doesn't go by when I don't think about subjecting him to every horrendous torture he's dealt out to others, and then end him.
Aw, so you do think about me.
But if I do that, if I allow myself to go down into that place, I'll never come back.
In reality, Aiden would be a much more grounded and realistic version of Batman that can actually strike fear into the hearts of criminals, while Batman remains an idealistic and largely unrealistic fantasy in our society today. Do you think Batman is a realistic example on how someone would act with his resources? Do you think Aiden Pearce is the closest example of a real-life Batman we will ever get? If you have a different opinion, please share it in the comment section below, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.